In this presentation, we are going to look at the Ekumeku Movement, a very strong resistance against the British occupation of what later became Nigeria. It is not a strange news that the area that later became Nigeria was at the time conquered, occupied, ruled, exploited by the British. But the people living in this area did not just open their arms and welcome the British to come and take over their areas. There were resistance. There were also areas that signed off their territory to the British, maybe based on what they must have seen the British do to their neighbors. But the truth, historically, was that the British were so brutal to any opposition against their interest to take over what is regarded today as Nigeria. And the conquest of the British, or the conquest of the area known today as Nigeria by the British, was done sequentially. The British were conquering one part of the area known today as Nigeria after another. Well, the truth also is that the British took time to gather intelligence about the people that lived in the area known today as Nigeria. They gathered intelligence on empires like the Kanem-Borno Empire, the powerful Sokoto Caliphate, the Benin Kingdom, the Jukun Kingdom, the Nupe Kingdom, the Shekiri Kingdom, the Oyo Empire, and different communities, different maybe smaller kingdoms that existed, and also different communities, non-centralized communities, non-centralized entities that existed in what later became Nigeria. So with all this intelligence, the British moved towards conquering the people one after the other, region from region. In some areas, the British made use of conflicts, utilized the conflicts already on the ground, maybe from one group of people against another. They used these conflicts to take over the area. In some areas, the British created these conflicts. In some areas, the British carried out outright bombardment, outright attacks, heavily and brutal attacks, in order to take over those areas. But as I said earlier, the Nigerian people, or the people that lived in what later became Nigeria, did not just open their arms and welcome the British. They resisted. And there were some minor resistance, there were some major ones, there were also very heavy ones. And one of such very heavy resistance against the British occupation capacity or occupation intention was the Ekumeku Movement. And this resistance was among the Igbo people of the western, or what is called the western part of Igbo Land, among the Eka group, or the Eka Igbo groups. Well, I think the Eka group, or the Eka Igbo, can be found in the present-day Delta State, and then some parts of which is presently part of South. These people, this Ekumeku Movement was founded by young Igbos, or young Eka people, and it was a very effective resistance against the British intentions. which made the conquest of that region to take a long time. In Igbo Land, when the British came to Igbo Land to conquer Igbo Land, they made some wrong projections and wrong articulations. Their intelligence failed them. They thought that, or they felt that, if they target Arochukwu and conquer Arochukwu, that to conquer Igbo Land generally would be very easy. They felt, or they thought, that the Arochukwu people had strong political influence over other parts of other people in Igbo Land. Well, what deceived them, or actually the misinformation they had, was as regard the powerful Ibini Ubabi oracle of the Arochukwu, which was influential as at that time, which attracted a lot of Igbo people and people from other parts of what later became Nigeria to the Arochukwu people. A lot of people visited the oracle for the solution of some of their issues, for the settlement of disputes, and for some other activities. So the British felt that by targeting the Arochukwu people, they will easily conquer Igbo Land, but that was a wrong move. Then another projection, or another thing that confused the British, was that the British could not understand the socio-political structure of Igbo Land. They could not understand it because they couldn't see any, or they didn't see any centralized political structure in Igbo Land. They didn't see any kingdom led by any particular person. They didn't see any empire. So they didn't know or understand the social political structure in Igbo Land. That actually encouraged them to go to the Arochukwu, thinking that the Arochukwu people had strong influence. Well, in their earliest clash with the Arochukwu people, the Arochukwu massacred a good number of British soldiers, and the British returned back, prepared, and attacked Arochukwu from 4 fronts. They attacked Arochukwu from Akwete front, from Itu front, and also Omana front, and also Oguta front. Within a very short time, though, they conquered Arochukwu with little military activity. But when they got to the western Igbo Land, they met very stiff and effective resistance. The Ekumeku Movement, that was formed by young men, created a secret police structure, and they also used a guerrilla war tactics against the British. The very first attack they had on the British was in 1898. In 1898, they destroyed the headquarters of the Royal Niger Company at Asaba. They attacked and destroyed the headquarters of the Royal Niger Company at Asaba. This made the British to take them serious. But both the Royal Niger Company that was given the charter by Britain to rule their territory in what later became Nigeria, and also the Southern Nigeria Protectorate, which was a direct institution commissioned by the British to rule this territory for them, could not subdue the Ekumeku Movement for over 16 years. They could not subdue the Ekumeku Movement for over 16 years. The Ekumeku Movement used a very effective structure. First, they had strong intelligence network. In their intelligence network, they were able to monitor the activities of the British, the positions of their economic interests and economic activities, and they continued hitting the British and their interests in a guerrilla warfare pattern. which was difficult for the British to tackle because there was nobody for them to even fight. Nobody came out easily to confront them, but they were being attacked by these young men. What the British did was to terribly or cruelly burn down and punish any community that they believed that the Ekumeku movement existed. People's houses were burnt, people were killed by the British in a bid to subdue the Ekumeku movement. But it still did not subdue the Ekumeku movement. It took over 16 years before the British were able to subdue them. That was after they were able to round up all the leaders of the Ekumeku movement and imprisoned all of them. By so doing, the influence and the powers of the Ekumeku movement diminished. Well, you can see the effective resistance of colonial administration. So when sometimes some people tend to feel that the people that lived at the time, the colonial masters or the Europeans came and conquered Africa, did not put up any resistance. No, there are lots of very effective resistance. One of such we've discussed earlier was the effective resistance of the French interest by Samori Toure, which took the French over 7 years before they could defeat Samori's army. Samori had better intelligence network and they also knew the territory and used a scorched earth policy of evacuating his people from any place where the French could reach and moving to another place. But the French didn't give up. They continued following, attacking Samori, and then until later they captured him along the line and took over his territory. Please subscribe to our channel and click on the notification so that any time we drop any content, you will be notified. If there's also any support you can give to us for us to do more and then produce more very interesting content in African history, please, we will surely accept that, because we need some logistic backup in order to continue, but we'll still continue. Thank you for being there. Please share our contents, subscribe, and click on notification so that anytime we drop a new content, you will be notified. Thanks for still being part of what we're doing.